Welcome to Diasporaa, the show where we share the remarkable stories of immigrants from the Indian subcontinent. I'm your host, Aditya Mehta. Each week, we sit down with individuals who have made the journey over and explore their experiences, their challenges, their triumphs. We delve into their unique perspectives on adapting to a new culture while staying connected with their roots. Today, we are joined by Adev Mansahia, a leading real estate agent from Vancouver, BC. Originally from Punjab in India, he was born in Chandigarh and raised in a town called Patiala, which is a very interesting story by itself, and we'll get to later in the show. He moved to Canada when he was in grade 9, and eventually he entered the world of real estate, and the rest is history. So I know Adev from my early days in Vancouver. We met through the only person we knew in Canada, and we've had interesting guests from the same group on the show, such as Chef Surrey. So now let's dive into this week's conversation. Adev, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Adi.
Yeah, I often ask my guests that if their town were a town in North America, what would it closely resemble? So our listeners have more context.
So I think town in probably New England, where the community was small. Now it's really kind of become a big city in the recent years. But everyone knew each other, and typically the crowd was quite affluent and very laid back, and they kind of helped each other out and didn't really kind of work as say because they had very large land holdings, and that was kind of generational wealth passed down. And so it's changed over the years, but from back in the day when I was over there, that's what I remember Patiala to be.
Yeah, Patiala has a lot of history, and it's also used to be a princely state before British colonization. So can you tell us more about what a princely state is and who it's ruled by? Any more context you can share there?
Yeah, so the Patiala estate it's still, the Maharaja is still, in per name say is the ruler, but obviously after independence things have changed, as we all know. But before that, Raja Yadwinder Singh was actually the last ruler where the rule actually stayed with the Maharaja. That was back until 1947. And he was actually one of the very first Rajas to join the Indian Union and get that started. And a fun fact about that is the first Indian flag hoisted in Patiala was actually on the Moti Bagh Palace of Maharaja Yadwinder Singh. So yeah, the Patiala state has been involved in politics and during independence and stuff like that. So the current Maharaja is Captain Amrinder Singh, also the Chief Minister of Punjab.
Interesting. So I learned something new today about that being one of the first states to join the Union, because more context for our guests, in 1947, this huge collection of princely states were all joining either the India or the Pakistan side based on their location and population mix. And some states came easily, some obviously fought and didn't wanted to be independent. So it's nice to know that Patiala was one of the first to join. Most people know Patiala because of the Patiala peg. So tell us more about what that is and how that story came about.
So yeah, it's actually a fun story because during the reign of Maharaja Bhupinder Singh, who's actually a very well-renowned Maharaja of India for various things, for his jewels, for his big lavish parties and stuff like that. So he had invited a polo team from England to play with the Maharaja's team in Patiala. And the night before the match, he obviously hosted the teams and the spouses and whatnot. And during the party, so I think the English team had a bit too much to drink. And the next day, they were actually favorites, and they actually lost that polo match to the Patiala team. And so they named it that they lost the match due to the Patiala pegs, because the Punjabis are known to handle their alcohol quite well.
Yeah.
That's how the Patiala peg came about.
So it's 90 milliliters. So it's
So
like a
it's
triple,
actually
basically.
the measurement, let's say a large is this, they say a Patiala peg is this.
Okay.
Right? So it's actually like a double, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, that's the measurement as they say.
In one of our early episodes, we talked about the Punjabi drinking capacity, and it was a friend from Chandigarh, and He said that I took a drinking challenge with people from the former Soviet Union countries. And he
Right.
said, and he was blown out of the water, like they could drink even more.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. So you were in India till grade 9. Where did you go to school? Were you in Patiala or were you sent off to a boarding school as is common more in North India?
Right. So my early years, I was in YPS Patiala, which is a day boarding or a day scholar school. Grade 5 onwards, I was sent to a boarding school, which is called Lawrence School Sanar. It's in Himachal Pradesh, one of the states in
Yeah.
India. And it's actually renowned as one of the best co-ed schools of India. And it was actually established back in 1847,
Oh, wow.
school. So almost 100 years before India got independence.
Yeah.
So it's got a lot of history, and the culture and the alumni is very strong. I have a huge group, even in Vancouver and across any country, So yeah, so I'm quite blessed that I'm able to attend those schools. So did my sisters, and yeah, so we've been here since grade 9. I've been in Vancouver.
We haven't had any guest who's been to a boarding school. So what is the difference beyond you live there and you have your regular curriculum? Are there any additional skills that are taught, or like a finishing school or etiquette or anything additional?
Right. Yeah, that comes as a package as well, right? You are made to do things a certain way. It's a
Right.
very regiment routine,
Right.
and you have your mornings, which you have to have an early rouser, and then go for your PT exercise, and then
Right.
come back, change, go for breakfast, and then you go to your classes, and so on and
Yeah.
so forth. And then we're always not encouraged, actually pushed to participate in all sports. So I think it really rounds you as a person and developing different skills. And also, the beautiful thing is that in a school like that, we had people from all over India, not just India, actually, all over the world, where ex-students have attended Sanar and they still want to send their kids from the United States and Canada and England back
Right.
to attend Sanar.
Right.
Yes, a lot of good exposure.
Yeah, it seems like a more holistic development than a regular school. It's the focus on all your subjects that are required for your SSC or state certificate or your 10th
Right.
grade.
Yeah. Me personally, I was never a bright student, but I was really a good sportsman. I wanted to participate in everything. So that's what, there's everything for everybody in a
Yeah.
boarding school.
Yeah. So, what brought about the move to Canada, firstly, and then specifically Vancouver?
So actually, in 1997, as a family, we came on vacation for a month and a half. We were in Vancouver. One of my aunts, my mom's sister, has lived here since 1970s. So we came to visit her. We visited America. So I think we all really liked this place. It was a beautiful country. I think we came at a very good time in the summer, so everything was amazing. And the following year, we visited again just as a holiday again for another month. So I think after that, my dad kind of thought that a good move for the kids, my sisters and I. And yeah, so he just applied at that time, you could apply for a business visa. And it was quite easy, I want to say, to get in. You just invest a certain amount of money and then you get the immigration. So that's what we did.
Yeah.
And to his surprise, he applied and he got it quite quickly. So,
Yeah.
and here we are.
Yeah. Especially in the US, even the Indian diaspora, they don't know how long Punjabis have been in Canada. Because here the real wave started in the 90s, I would say, like the whole tech worker coming on the H1 visa, which especially in Seattle we see a lot of. Can you share some more information about the Punjabi diaspora in Canada, how long they've been there, and what kind of because they're known for their contribution wherever they live in the world.
Right.
So can you talk about that a little bit more?
So Punjabis have been here since the 1800s.
Yeah.
A lot of went this way, immigration this way, and also a lot of Punjabi soldiers have fought for Canada
Yeah.
in the wars, right? So we've contributed here, and I think in any place we've been, even so much in the Indian Army, a lot of Sikhs are a big part
Yeah.
of the army over there. So hardworking and somewhat fearless, not always for the good right reasons, but that in our blood. So always willing to help and do something for the other person.
Yeah, and the diaspora is not concentrated in a few fields, like how Patels are in motels here, or a lot of the South Indian populations are in tech.
Right.
You'll see Punjabis in every kind of part of the economy, right? And at every level from top to bottom, as well as across the sectors of the economy.
Right. Yeah, I think that goes back to saying that how hardworking the Punjabi community is. There's no right or wrong way to kind of make ends meet or get to a certain social standing or financial standing. The Punjabi community is, I think, willing to work from the ground up and build from there. So,
Yeah.
which is quite commendable to see in all the generations as well. So,
I guess work hard and party harder.
yes, that's the motto. Yes.
Yeah. So your visa came through, and then I guess you moved here with your family. How are the early days like, especially for you going to school? Were you in a private school or a regular public school?
So yes, I grew up in North Vancouver, and that was primarily a Caucasian neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it was a big change for me, for sure. And it took time to kind of get used to the way of education here and, stuff like that. So it was definitely challenging and hard at times. And I still believe this education system in India is far superior than it is in North America. Because as I said, I was never a bright student. I could study a little bit over there and get through here. Since grade 9 to grade 12, I don't even think I picked up a book to make it through. So I found it easier that way. So I think the education system in the early years is very good in India for sure.
Yeah, and India is also much more competitive. There's a lot more people vying for the same resources. And back then, there were only so many IITs and only so many IIMs, and access to all those things were not plentiful. So I guess people would study harder in school in general. Even if it was just rote learning, they would still study harder. Now you see the scale at which India operates, especially the education sector, the way it has blown up. I think somewhere that is making people a little more complacent because there's other options where earlier, I remember like one of my uncles is a radiologist in Bombay, and when he wanted to become a radiologist, there was one seat in the whole state of Maharashtra for every year.
Right.
And in a population of 100 million, almost 100 million people, right? So that's good to know. So what did you do for college after the high school experience?
My dad, by education, he's actually a lawyer.
Okay.
And
so is your wife now?
So is my wife, yes.
Yeah.
But my wife is a practicing lawyer, but my dad never practiced law.
Okay.
And so I thought maybe that's a good field to go into. And I did one semester.
Okay.
And I did not like it. So I wanted to change. Then I did my business admin from Langara College in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And then, eventually, it's been 14 years since I've been in the real estate industry now.
Yeah.
So, long time with that.
Yeah, that's great. I think a lot of people in India, just going back to the education point, they feel it's all or nothing. Like if you don't get into the best college, like you're done, like there's no future. But they miss the point that it only matters to get you to the next step. And if you apply for a job, no one's going to ask you what you got in 10th grade. They'll ask you what was your recent bachelor's or master's degree, right?
Exactly. Canada is great in a way because there's so many avenues, because I think coming from a South Asian sort of mindset, that all or nothing, we are brought up very differently over there. Here, there are so many different options and avenues one can take and make a career out of it.
Yeah. My mind was blown when I came here for undergrad at the University of Texas at Austin. And I learned that along with my business degree, I could take an elective in Greek mythology if I wanted to. And then eventually I did a major in marketing, but I minored in urban planning. So I did something which is, odd combination, so to speak. Okay, let's take a short break. And when we come back, I want to talk about how you got into real estate and how that journey has been building your real estate business. So we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Diasporaa on KKNW, where we share interesting stories of first-generation immigrants from the Indian subcontinent. We're talking to Adev Mansahia, a longtime Vancouver resident and real estate broker. Before we get back to talking to Adev, I want to take a moment to remind you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find all our episodes in video form there, right from the first one. So, when you moved, Vancouver wasn't quite the real estate craziness that it is now. What do you think were the main reasons it became like a expensive city? Was it just immigration, or were there other factors?
Right. Yes, I think immigration is one of the major factors, and I think the city never really had that much international exposure for people to come and visit. And I think once you start getting tourism in, that really attracts investment as well.
Yeah,
When people can come and see how beautiful this place is, how
yeah,
livable it is, and where to other major and big metropolitan cities, it was probably an affordable place for investors to park their money.
right.
I think now, obviously, that's changed over the years, but I'm talking about 25 years ago. So the things were a lot different then.
Do you think the 2010 Olympics kind of did something to put Vancouver in that spotlight more than it was before?
Absolutely. 2010 Olympics was huge for Vancouver, and getting that exposure from overseas and actually the whole world's exposure, people coming from all over, within those few days. And it was a very, very well organized event, and it was done very beautifully and no hiccups. So, the logistics behind it were very well managed. So I think people saw that it's a good place. Nobody goes really crazy in terms of managing millions of people coming in. So
Yeah,
it was done very well. So I think definitely that did help for sure.
yeah. So, what I'm understanding is that the demand was growing faster than what the supply was. Do you find there's a general supply constraint? And what contributes to that? Is it because there's no lack of land per se, like you can keep going east from Vancouver? So, what are the factors that lead to the supply not catching up fast enough?
So I think they're really not willing to zone ALR land, which is agricultural land reserve, into residential. So there's only so much land around to work with. So
Mm,
rather than building out, they have to build up.
right.
So driven the price of land has just skyrocketed in the last few years, and it's becoming more and more unaffordable
Yeah.
for new immigrants to come and actually own a home here
Yeah.
in Vancouver.
Yeah. I
Not
think.
just Vancouver, all the suburbs as well. They're really
Yeah.
expensive. So
I think for most of even the US, for millennials, home ownership is like a distant dream. And this holds especially true for Seattle. The cost of parking, let's say $200,000
yeah,
in a home and then paying mortgage with interest rates with where they are right now,
yeah,
you can rent the same property for half the price.
correct.
And so you would need something like the price to double every 7 years, is what I read,
Mm.
for that to be a better option than renting and putting the money in the stock market. And it has happened before, like in Seattle, prices have doubled and more than doubled, but I don't know to what extent that will keep repeating over the next 30 years, per se.
Right. So I think people have realized that Vancouver, or actually Canada, it's a very safe place to invest,
Yeah.
and nothing is going to happen with their money. They're probably
Yep.
okay with a smaller return on investment, but
Sure.
just having that peace of mind that it's 100% secure and safe.
Yeah.
And so that's also driven the price and the demand up as well. And recent immigration coming into Canada has driven the price of rents really up,
Also high. Yeah.
also quite high. And if rents go up, more investors jump in, more investors jump in, they drive the price up. So it's a cycle.
Yeah.
So
Do you feel salaries have kept up with the way the rents are going, or are they catching up now? Because I've kind of been out of Vancouver last 3 years.
no, I don't think so. I think we need a real bump in salaries,
Yeah.
and because the cost of living, not just for rents, everything's really skyrocketed since COVID.
Yeah. The week before I left, I had a burrito on a food truck in downtown. I paid $21 for a food truck burrito.
Think about that. At a food truck, right?
At
So
a food truck, and I was like, this is unreal. Yeah, because for me, I came to the US as a student in the mid 2000s. Then I left for 10 years, and then I came back in 2018 to Vancouver, as you know. So in India, things become expensive much quicker because of inflation. So when I landed in Vancouver, I didn't find things were that expensive because one, I came from Bombay, which is very expensive because of real estate. And in rupee terms, it's sometimes things are way more expensive even after you convert from dollars. Like a beer in Bombay costs $5 at a restaurant, right? So I thought it's as expensive as Bombay, but at least I'm earning in dollars and not rupees. And the other thing is, I thought, well, it's been 10 years since I lived in this part of the world, so things must have just gotten more expensive. And then as I started talking to people, especially locals who have seen the journey for the last 15 years, did I understand that no, this is genuinely an expensive place to live. And now I go to places like Salt Lake City for work, and I can have a meal for $9 or $12, and then that's when it bites. So salaries have not kept up, and rents keep going up because of the inflation. Is there anything beyond the availability of land in the sense, like, do government entities take very long to approve projects and permits? Is that a factor as well?
Absolutely. The cities there's so much backlog
Yeah.
to clear first, because I think at the peak, Vancouver and Greater Vancouver and Fraser Valley, we close to, I think, 130,000 people moving in year after year.
Wow.
And that's definitely slowed down since some of the immigration rules have changed. But the cities had so much backlog, and they just weren't able to keep up with the applications coming in to getting land rezoned and getting higher density and stuff like that. So definitely that has an effect for sure. So I think the cities are realized that the best way for them to make money is to give out more building permits. And getting more units in place, because they're going to be making a lot of property tax on those. So they are trying to kind of figure that out, but it's going to take some time before they clear the backlog.
Yeah, I think density in itself is not a bad thing because, like downtown Vancouver is a pleasure to live in for the most part, right? Because of the density, you can walk everywhere.
Yeah, but it's quite small compared to other downtowns.
Yeah, it's quite small. And I mean, water on three sides. But the problem with that is the infrastructure then has to keep up with that density. And I'm sure you've heard this before, but I came out of the airport and we saw the train, the Sky Train. I thought that's the train that goes between the terminals because it's so small. And especially Bombay has these 15 carriage local trains which carry 8,000 people. And there's one every 90 seconds. So I thought it was that. And then I learned, oh, this is like the actual train. And then I like to pick up the newspaper wherever I go. And there was an article about overcrowding in the train. And one of the commuters had a soundbite which said, the train is so crowded that people now, when they bump into you, they don't even apologize. And I was thinking, in India, we have people hanging out of the train. And then you have people hanging on to those people who are hanging out of the train, right?
Yeah.
So for me, those things were like lighthearted things of moving to a new country. When you moved, were there any such instances where you were just like, what is this? Or, something funny that happened because of the different cultural context?
I actually had remembered the very day we landed at the airport, and my uncle had come to pick us up. So this was, we landed in December, second week of December. And, coming from India, you're used to the weather being a certain way, even in the winter. So I rocked up in a silk shirt.
Well, at least you had something called a winter. In Bombay, we didn't even have that.
Right. So it was actually, when we came out of the airport, I've never felt that kind of biting cold until then. It wasn't that cold. I remember it was -4 that day. But coming from India, you've never experienced something like that. And all my sweatshirts and sweaters or whatever were packed in the bag. So I was just in a shirt. And that was quite an experience the very first day we landed. Yeah. So,
and I think the cold in Vancouver hits you more than the cold in, say, Toronto or out east. Because it's like
goes through your clothes here for some reason.
Yeah, maybe it's to do with the humidity, I think. So over the years, as you've seen Vancouver grow, is there something that you think has gotten better with the city as it has become more expensive or just bigger in general?
I think there are more things to do within downtown or the cities now. Langley, like giving you an example of Langley, you're familiar with Langley as well. So, so Langley, I remember, was just farms, 20 years ago. There was nothing there. And now It's believe it or not, in the neighborhoods now, it's even hard to find parking.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's gotten that bit,
Yeah.
it's expanded. So I think it's a good thing that density increases, more people move in, and it's getting recognized as a world-class city year over year for a reason. So it's definitely, I think it's gotten better. You know, for entertainment purpose as well, there's a lot more to do now than there was about
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
More place to go out and stuff like that. So it's definitely an improvement.
So on that note, Surrey, which was a suburb, I think it was expected to cross Vancouver in population, or maybe has already. But is it still just, you would think that more jobs and headquarters and the downtown type of enterprises would move with the population, but Vancouver is still, downtown is still the core, right? Even though Surrey might have more people.
Correct. Yeah. So Surrey city center, they're trying to mimic downtown Vancouver or let's say Burnaby Metrotown area. I think eventually in the next 10 years, it will surpass those two downtowns in terms of density, in terms of the number of buildings coming up,
Yeah.
and other residents who choose to live there and work there. So a lot of businesses are moving this way
Yeah.
because affordability in terms of land is better. They can
Yeah.
afford their massive offices here. Then
And also, they don't have those view cone restrictions and height restrictions that downtown Vancouver has. So I see, like Brentwood, the buildings are actually taller than what you see in Vancouver. Are you
yeah.
familiar with the view cones? And can you explain that to our listeners a little
That,
bit more?
yeah, so, different buildings will have different height restrictions. So Vancouver downtown is built out, and let's say they're not going to tear down a 20-year-old concrete building, which may be only 15 stories.
Yeah.
And now they're able to give permits out here, let's say in Surrey or Brentwood and stuff like that, for buildings which are 35, 40 stories.
Yeah.
They're occupying the same amount of land, but they're building multiple residents and quite a bit more so.
Yeah. Interesting. Would you say the Vancouver housing shortage is worse than Toronto, or is Toronto even worse?
Me personally, I'm not too familiar with what exactly is happening in Toronto, but I think Toronto still can expand outwards.
Yeah. True.
We, being in Vancouver and the Fraser Valley, we cannot.
You can't go south, it's the border, and you can't go north because it's the.
Correct. Yeah. And on one side we have water. So, there's only so much room to grow. So density, I think, and affordability is always going to be a factor here. And people will all find that a challenge in Vancouver, I think, even in the coming years. But that's not always a bad thing if you can get into the market,
Yeah.
and kind of go from there.
Yeah.
You always have to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. We were going to talk about your real estate career in this segment, but we ended up talking about the Canadian housing situation. That's fine, totally. So, what got you into real estate after your short lawyer stint?
Lawyer was just one semester, so it
Yeah.
was really nothing. So, yeah, so after college, actually, this is in 2004, we were looking to buy homes for ourselves. My mom and dad, we were looking, and then the real estate agent helping us at the time, I would research on some properties and tell him, okay, this is what we want to look at and stuff like that. So he was a great agent, and then he said, this is something you should consider as a career because I think you'll be great at it. And I never really gave that another thought until a couple of years after. And I said maybe because real estate was getting recognized here. It was really kind of starting to pick up.
Yeah.
And then I got my real estate license from the School of Business in UBC.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is back, I think, in 2011, I want to say, or 2010. I got licensed and I've been a full-time realtor since 2011.
Yeah. And I think that was really good time to get started as well, given that 2010 Olympics got a shot in the arm, gave a shot in the arm to the
Exactly.
cities.
Yeah. So there was definitely a desire to get people into the market. People, here early years, as a realtor here, you never really had to sell a property. It would sell itself. So we've had some good years in the past. And obviously right now the market kind of plateaued and nothing is moving. But I think just a matter of time when people are going to look back at this time and be like, hey, we could have bought this property at this price.
Sure.
And why didn't we? So I
Yeah.
think it's just a matter of time. It's going to turn around.
Yeah, the rental market in Seattle is like that right now, where I'm not having to really sell. As you know, I'm a property manager, so I do leasing,
Yeah.
and I'm a little bit apprehensive because when you start in a difficult market, then you're able to cope with an easy market much easier, but the other way around may not work. So I've been spending a lot of that time thinking, like, if the rental slows down, then, what should I be doing? Because I don't have that experience in my short property management career. Let's take a short break now. And when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about your real estate career as well as some of your hobbies. Welcome back to Diasporaa on KKNW, where we share interesting stories of first generation immigrants from South Asia. We're talking to Adev Mansahia, an entrepreneur based in Vancouver, BC. Before we jump back into the conversation, if you like listening to our show, please consider following us on Instagram or leaving us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. So, Adev, once you got into real estate and it was easier days at that time, like you said, the homes would sell themselves. Were there any kind of low moments in your career where you questioned, like, what am I doing here, or why am I in Canada, or anything on those lines?
I don't think it came to something that drastic, but I'll share a quick story. So the very
Yeah.
first sale I ever made, as a cousin of mine bought a property in Yaletown Marina Side, a beautiful place overlooking the water. And he actually waited till I got licensed and finished my education. So he
Yeah.
waited, that's where it actually started. So our first sale I ever made in real estate was within 2 weeks of me being a realtor.
Yeah.
And, first sale, I like, hey, this stuff is easy. But obviously for the next 6 months, I didn't see a single paycheck. So
Right.
you learn very quickly that,
Yeah.
you can't just be complacent and just sit and
Yeah.
come to you. You have to go get the business.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I did have a, like, what am I doing in Canada moment just once in the 4 years I lived there. And I don't think my listeners have heard this story before. It was my 10th wedding anniversary, and my wife and son were in India. And and as you may remember, my son's birthday is one day before my anniversary. So I was supposed to be in India, but because of work commitments at Amazon, I had to push out my trip. My condo where I lived in had a leak and the flooring had started to come off. So they needed to replace the flooring, and they emptied out the whole property to replace the flooring. And I stayed in a hotel for a week, and then I came back on my wedding anniversary day, and they were supposed to come back with all my stuff, and the movers would come in and unpack everything. And there was a scheduling error, so they didn't show up. And it was an empty condo. It was a Saturday, nobody was picking up the phone. And I was sitting in this empty condo on a picnic chair with no furniture and no hotel booking or anything. And that day I was like, man, what am I doing here? And in hindsight, I probably had 40 friends I could have gone and stayed with, who would not have said no if I had gone there. But it was just in that moment, you just don't think straight. And I was just like, man, that's the only time I think I questioned my life decision to come to Canada. Otherwise, it's been quite the journey. I also see that a lot of Indians are moving from the States to Canada because of the continuing visa struggles here. Have you dealt with that group of Indians in your work or just out and about? And do you find a difference between them and the Indians who are moving directly from India?
Yes, definitely. There is a difference in terms of, I believe, people moving from the States. I've dealt with a lot of them who've not just bought their primary homes, even investment properties as well, because they do see the value here and the long term growth and stability. So I believe people coming from the States, they're very well aware of the market situation here. So it's a lot easier for me to kind of, show them exactly what they need rather than, if some were to move from India, they're not aware of how things really work here.
Yeah.
Right? So just that education time is a lot less the people moving from the States, because it's fairly similar, and they've heard all the stories about Vancouver being so expensive and being very competitive and multiple offers and whatnot and the other. So that's definitely a difference. And real estate dealing in India is very, very different from North America.
No comparison whatsoever.
So, just that process. I mean, I'm more than happy and I'm able to do that because I'm well aware of how things work in India. So I can show them the differences, how things network here compared to India. So yeah, it's different. It's definitely it's doable.
Yeah, so 2 points to make here. One is my first tech startup was a property management slash brokerage company in India for NRIs who live. And for our listeners, NRIs are non resident Indians, sometimes called non reliable Indians. But so, we would help NRIs who lived in the States to manage their properties and rentals in India. And there
Right.
was obviously a brokerage component to the business. And we
Right.
only worked with the choice developers like the Loda Group and the Godrej Group.
Yeah.
But eventually my startup shut down because we had assumed it will take 6 months for brokerage to get paid, and it took us 18 months on average. And we just ran out of working capital. It's messy. Like real estate in India is very messy. Whereas here, the property I purchased, I got an e-document, I signed it, it was done.
Yeah.
And
Great.
I didn't need to really go check the property 10 times. I need to do anything. So definitely much, much simpler and more streamlined experience for sure. And I think a lot of that comes from the rule of law, because when you can trust the legal documents and then the legal system to enforce the legality of those documents, your trust in the system goes up so much more.
Right.
And like I have people leasing properties here without seeing the property. Like in India, I couldn't imagine doing that ever, right? The other point I wanted to make is that's one of the reasons I started my platform Diasporaa, where I realized that people coming in cold from India, if they're Punjabi, they still have a network they can plug into here because there's going to be someone from every town. But if you're from like Jaipur or Bhopal, then you probably don't know anybody here. You don't know what a credit score is. You don't know where the Indian grocery is. And it's just a much, much harder time assimilating. You might even not know what a townhouse is, or the difference between a condo and an apartment for that matter. So I think I helped a lot of people get assimilated a little bit quicker with that platform that I'd created. And then this podcast, obviously, and a second generation rebirth of that in a different format. So I ask a question to guests who have known me for a while, and this is to help my listeners understand me better. What were your first impressions of me when we met? I think it was probably at that barbecue in the 2018 summer when we had lots of those barbecues.
Right. It was Stanley.
It was Stanley Park, yes.
Yes. I remember at the cricket field.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you were quite enthusiastic to learn about the country and the people, which is the right approach. And you have the right attitude for sure. So that's what's kind of, you've come a long way. Where coming from Bombay, and at that age, it's not an easy move at all. You've settled in really well into this culture and the society, and just the way of living here is very different compared to Bombay for sure. So hats off to you, and I have a lot to learn from you as well. So
I think so. I appreciate those words. Prachi and I realized very early on that as the new immigrant, the onus is on us to reach out and show value in knowing us. Because when we lived in Bombay, we've been there 4 generations. You guys all had been here for 15, 20, 25 years. Did I ever reach out to a new immigrant from Nagpur saying, "Hi, new immigrant, how can I help you?" No. I would be like, "Why are you contacting me? Like, what's your problem?" So here I realized that no one's going to come and help you, but we have to make that effort. And I don't think Vancouver is a cliquey city like people make it out to be. If I reach out to people and they don't help me, sure, that's a different story. But every time I've reached out and asked for meetings, all sorts of people, all races, I've always been met with a lot of help and support. And then that has helped us grow beyond and have a big network and know people and get our understanding. And the second thing is, for us, it was always, you're here and the country is always going to get the best of your talents and abilities.
Yeah.
But if you don't assimilate, that's your loss. It's not the country's loss. So,
Correct.
Eventually you're going to be a citizen. And then it's also your duty to be well informed about the country, its history, have an opinion on politics, and have an opinion on policy. And then obviously go see the whole country as quickly as you can. So I've been to 7 provinces now. I was within a mile of Prince Edward Island, but I couldn't go because I had a work commitment. And I think that has only helped us enrich our lives more and be better citizens, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's always been our kind of common ground in that. What advice do you have for someone who's moving today from India, just cold turkey, like the type of people we described? what would you tell them to help them get off? And don't say call Aditya, because Aditya is not in Vancouver anymore. If I was there, I would have very much helped that person get their life going. But just generally, what advice would you give someone?
I think, yes, the sooner you can kind of blend into the system, become a part of the system and the culture,
Yeah,
is going to be beneficial for you. If you've made the move from a country and you've lived there a certain way, and your way of functioning and way of doing things is different, that applies to that country.
yeah,
Moving here, you need to adapt to the new way of living, because if this is the place where you need to live, and the sooner you do it, the better for you.
yeah,
Right? And
yeah,
not just working wise, just getting a good idea of how people are here.
yeah,
Canadians, for the most part, are very helpful, and as you said, nobody is going to say no to you.
yeah,
But you have to initiate, and you have to get into the system, forget what you were doing in your hometown, and adapt to the new system here, for sure.
yeah, yeah. That's great advice. Would you ever move back to India? And if so, what circumstances would make you do that?
To be honest, I don't know yet, and I don't think so that I would. I love my life here. We have a great group of friends, and social life is great. The place is great. The neighbors are great. Everything,
Yeah,
nothing to complain.
yeah,
And has given me a lot, and I'm very, very thankful. We are in the best place in the world, for sure.
yeah,
So there's no reason to go back, but
yeah,
definitely I visit quite frequently, so which is always nice.
yeah. And more family you have locally, the less you have to go back to. For us, I think, and Prachi especially feels this a lot, because all our 8 grandparents' families are in Bombay. So I joke we could fill a small stadium at a family gathering if we wanted to. So, and I think with each generation goes by, then you have less and less reason to do that. I know you have an interesting hobby, and to the extent you're comfortable sharing, tell us more about your hunting adventures.
So, game hunting is a part of my early years growing up as well. My dad did it, so did my grandfather and my great grandfather, and so on and so forth. So it's in the blood. And, actually, fact about my great grandfather, his name plank is actually in the Bharatpur Sanctuary in Rajasthan as one of the most renowned tiger hunters of India.
Wow.
So his name was Gurbaksh Singh Mansahia. So yeah, so it's in the blood, and I've kind of caught on from there. I used to go with my dad, a little boy, and now I hunt primarily in BC, and BC has some of the best wildlife you can ever experience.
Yeah.
And I've also had the opportunity to hunt in Africa as well, but that's a totally different story. And whatever we hear that zebras are going extinct, it's absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
I think that's just the way of them portraying it to us, that you're hunting extinct animals which are being extinct and all, but that's not it's a big business over there. So I don't think I'll do that again in Africa, but sea has so much to offer.
Yeah.
It's actually real hunting, so it's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, here I've not come across any South Asian people who hunt, but now that you mention it, there are parts of India where it's been a long time tradition.
Right.
And especially like royal families would go on these hunting expeditions
Right.
in
So
India.
that's where my family's tradition kind of has carried on, and I'm actually the only one out of my cousins and stuff like that who's kept up with that.
Yeah.
So, it's more to go outdoors and enjoy the outdoors with friends.
Yeah. Oh,
That's the experience, and go see new places.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Let's move into our weekly segments now. Could we spin the wheel, please? So this one is called Mango Memories. Oh, we haven't done this in a while. Most people from our part of the world have memories related to mangoes. So what's your favorite mango related memory?
So mangoes are actually still one of my favorite fruits. Coming from India, summers were always,
Yeah.
you have to have a ton of mangoes, and growing up, that's what we did. So great story. Actually, it was actually a routine. So, during the summer holidays, all the cousins would be together during the summer holidays, and then my parents would throw a bunch of mangoes in the pool,
Oh.
and we'd let them stay there for some time because they'd get nice and cold. Then it
Yeah.
used to be a challenge who can dive and pick up a mango from
Yeah.
the bottom of the pool. And I remember those memories are so vivid.
Yeah.
And I always look back at that and think of those times eating mangoes in the pool. It was just such an amazing time.
I've never heard anyone do that. So my son goes to India this summer, and we have a pool in our farmhouse. I'm gonna have him do that. Thank you so
And
much for.
it's a great activity for
It's
sure.
such. I'm blown away. This is amazing. Every mango memory we've done on this show has been either it unlocks my one of my own core memories, or it teaches me a new way to enjoy the mango. So thank you for sharing that. We do have time for one more segment, so let's spin that wheel again and see what we get. This one is called How's That? Most people from our part of the world are cricket fans. I would say cricket worshippers. What's your favorite cricketing memory? Whether it would be a game you watched or from your own life and experience playing cricket.
Yeah, so living in Patiala, we obviously had the opportunity to go watch matches at the Mohali Cricket Stadium.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to do that and enjoy multiple games. And I really cherish those memories. And obviously, being an Indian, my favorite memory is probably the 2011
Yeah.
World Cup and Dhoni hitting that six.
That six. Yeah.
So actually, a story from that day. We were
Yeah.
all gathered at my house. We were about 15, 20 of us. And when India started to bat, they were chasing.
Yeah.
And Sehwag was on strike. And my sister comes in and says, "Oh, I don't like Sehwag for whatever reason. Sehwag is
Yeah.
actually one of my favorites." And she goes, "I think he's going to get out." She just said it, and ball, Malinga got him LBW.
Oh no.
He was obviously shunned out of the room and not allowed
Of
to come
course.
back.
Once on that note, we were watching a game, and one of our friends got up to go to the bathroom, and we were bowling, and someone took a wicket. We didn't let him come out of the bathroom.
Yeah, that has to be done, right?
Yeah,
So
that has to be done, exactly.
so yeah, some great memories. And I actually played cricket for the North Shore Cricket Club
Nice.
early on, and I represented the provincial juniors team here as well. So cricket runs in my blood, and even
That's
today
awesome.
I watched the test match. I woke up early and I watched
Yeah.
Gill get to his half century, which was great. So yeah, cricket is a part of my life for sure.
Yeah, we would need another episode just to talk about cricket memories.
Absolutely.
So
Yes, we can discuss that. Yeah.
I have my 2 stories from that game, but we're running out of time. So I'm very sure someone else is going to have this same favorite memory. So I'm
Yeah.
going to save it for then. Oh, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you for listening to Diasporaa. We hope you enjoyed hearing Adev's fascinating story. Remember to check out our show notes for links and more information about the topics we discussed in today's episode. Diaspora is part of the Speaking Current network of shows and podcasts, all of which are dedicated to inspiring listeners to build lives of meaning, connection, and value. You can find the Speaking Current network of shows, including Diaspora, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube, and we have rebranded the Staying Power Network into the Speaking Current network. That's why I said Speaking Current, and this includes a broader family of shows which are already live and more exciting ones to come. Lastly, if you know someone who has a story that can be shared on our show, please feel free to reach out to us on any of our social media handles. We'll be back next week with another interesting story from the South Asian diaspora. And until then, take care and stay curious. And Adev, thank you so much for coming. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time too.